Welcome to inaugural. This is Eric Grissom.
And I'm Dan Johnson. Eric and I will be rewatching the iconic Twin Peaks from the pilot through the return and everything in between.
If this is your first time watching, or if you're a longtime fan, you can watch along with us as we dive deep into the strange and wonderful world of Twin Peaks.
We live inside a dream.
Today we are going to be talking about the pilot episode of Twin Peaks, known as Northwest Passage. But before we get to that, I just want to take a minute and talk about why I'm doing this. This is a podcast that I never thought I'd be making. I love Twin Peaks. It is my favorite show of all time, but it's more than that. It's my favorite created world. And so my thought was I never wanted it to feel like work. I didn't want it to be something that I had to take notes on or set time aside to record and to edit. I didn't want any of that. So what changed? Well, I don't think I'm alone in saying the last few months have been really dark. And then on January 15th, David Lynch died. And it hit me really hard, and I know that that's stupid to say because I did not know him. But his work meant so much to me for so long that it affected me in a way that I can't properly put into words. So I decided to do this show as a way of saying thanks to the man and his work, not as a podcast, but as a love letter.
I'll send you a love letter. Straight from my heart, fucker!
A tribute to one of the world's greatest artists. I want to get lost in those dark woods, and I want to go with friends, with people that love Twin Peaks as much as I do, or with those wonderful people out there who get to experience it for the first time. And so we arrive here at the first episode of Meanwhile. In a minute, we're going to be joining Dan. Dan and I talked for a very long time. We had a lot to say about this pilot, so much so that it will appear in multiple episodes, at least 2, but we'll see how the edit goes. So, without further ado, let's jump into the proper episode and join Dan, already in progress. Dan, I'm here monopolizing all the time. I think it makes sense at the start of this, like we sort of get an idea of where you fit into the world of Twin Peaks. Like, was it something you watched originally? Did you come to it later in college? Or what's your journey to this town, Dan?
Yeah, I remember the show being on the air. I remember the summer of Who Killed Laura Palmer, but I wasn't watching the show at the time. So this is, 89 or so? So I was still in middle
1990.
school. 90 is when it came out? Okay, so we're filmed in 89, out in 90. I was still in middle school. It wasn't until later in high school that a friend of mine, one of my best friends, got me into Fire Walk with Me. So my first exposure to Twin Peaks was Fire Walk with Me.
Oh, that's strange. Yeah.
Which was super fun because I didn't have any idea what was going on. He was just like, it doesn't matter, just watch it, which was kind of a really good mental model for it. It's like, you don't need to answer everything. It makes me think of, like you mentioned, David Lynch having just died. So a lot of interviews are resurfacing. Kyle MacLachlan had a really moving series of messages, I think on Instagram or probably other social media. But the idea of don't look for answers, it's the questions that matter. So like I think naturally I just kind of fell into it, that frame of mind, which was really great. So I didn't understand it, but I really loved it. But it wasn't until I was in college a few years later when, you could start renting the DVDs of things and the box set came out. So I rented those, and with a few of my roommates, we just went through one by one, watching all of it. And it was fantastic. That may be the last time I've actually seen the original series start to finish. So that would have been very, very, very early 2000s. So anyway, that's my background with it. Not a super deep. I'm not, in the conversations you and I have had over the years, you're able to kind of pull references to it, like at the drop of a hat. Like, I feel like it's much more ingrained in your psyche than maybe it is in mine. You just have like this kind of deep recall for this stuff.
I remember I have a very vivid memory of The Elephant Man, and I watched it with my mom, and I was way too young, and I was like completely horrified by that opening slow motion streaming of the elephants, walking by, and then the mom getting thrown down, and that was horrifying. And then what followed was this very empathetic, emotional journey that set the stage for a love of David Lynch. But I had no idea who he was until years later when I was a freshman in high school. And at the time, I loved to make movies and I wanted to be a filmmaker. And my older sister, she's about 4 years older than me, had two friends, this guy, Greg, and this other guy, Andrew, who also made films. And these guys would turn me on to all sorts of cool films and directors and stuff. And I can remember Greg coming up to me and telling me about Eraserhead and David Lynch and how David Lynch was being given a TV show and how insane that was. So I knew the pilot was coming. So I got to watch it, while it aired. And I feel like my DNA was rewritten at that point. There was like me before and then there was me after because I had never seen anything like the show before. And I never really connected with anything in quite the same way. And then that led to like an obsession with the show. And then I got into the diaries and the tapes and the film. So I was sort of with it from the beginning and then was like, okay, I got to find Blue Velvet. I got to find, I remember seeing Wild at Heart in the theater and then seeing like Lost Highway in the theater and Fire Walk with Me in the theater multiple times, and every time you would go, there'd be less people in it. So it was like such a gift to be at that age and to discover his work and then to ride it while it was happening in real time. I just feel like so lucky that all of the stars lined up for that for me. So but I've watched the show many, many times.
Yeah. I've actually seen Fire Walk with Me more times than I've seen the original series. I think I've only watched the original series once through to completion and another time through the most of the first and second seasons. But, because there's we'll get to it later. As the production changes a bit, the focus of the show changes a bit, and it kind of feels a little bit different in the second season. I think that's kind of where I fell off. Then
we'll get to it when we get to the reviews over the years, because we'll be here for a while.
25 years.
Like there's like very little or no irony in David Lynch's work. And I feel like a lot of people do see that and they say like, oh, he's subverting things or this is, silly on purpose. It's like, no, like he's like pure and true. And it's like you mentioned it before when you were talking about sort of the truth and the dream logic and everything, because it is like pure intuition that is not weird for weird's sake. And when we get into the second season and we get into some other directors that run the show while some people aren't around anymore, I feel like it does fall into that, becomes a parody of itself, and it's just trying to be weird. But the thing about him is it never feels pretentious. It's always true to the idea.
Interesting.
And it follows that. And for me, it was like, this was, and again, that's why it hurt so much, knowing that that light's no longer in the world. And then you could say, well, of course, it inspired. How many people did it inspire? And it was nice to see all of the people talking about it and how much he meant to them. So anyway.
No, but that's true. When you say that's a really great way of thinking about this, because as I was rewatching the show, my partner was sitting next to me and he's never watched it before. And he was just kind of half paying attention. But it would ask every once in a while, well, who's that? Or would say something like, that character is just like, why did they do that? And so much of it is just like, you'll see, like, it's fine. You don't have to understand, for example, why the log lady is the way that she is. It will come, but even if it doesn't, it still feels true in the moment.
Yeah.
What you said as well, or you have to accept it as being true and not being this postmodern, detached, ironic distance of this. It is 100% authentic to themselves.
Guillermo del Toro, I saw a quote after David Lynch had died. He describes Lynch as an artist in a much better way than I'm sort of struggling here to do.
But I'm good friends with Mark Frost, and Mark said, David is unironic. He said, people think David is ironic, but he isn't. He actually loves that little bluebird singing at the end of Blue Velvet, and he really believes in the goodness of pie and coffee. Like, he's not being meta. He really has the two things, the weirdest mind and the most wholesome mind. I think that paradoxical creation is essential to art.
So you have these like two competing ideas, this like darkness, but this purity, like funneled through one vision. And so you get like these really dark moments, but they're always coupled with like these beautiful moments of love, whether, Blue Velvet, the ending of Blue Velvet, when the birds and like all of that stuff is like it's just such a great balance, and like I feel like that's why he works so well, because he is so wholesome, but also so incredibly dark.
Well, I think that's probably part of the key is to be wholesome could be read as almost saccharine, but he leavens that with this underside that is also just as powerful and true, but in the opposite direction.
Right. There's an honesty to all of it, and presenting these feelings and these ideas as they are, as they appear, as we feel them to be.
Before Twin Peaks was aired, and I could just look this up, but you probably know it off the top of your head. Lynch's filmography was
Eraserhead, first proper film. He had done short films before that.
Yeah.
Then Mel Brooks, in a wonderful scene, was putting together The Elephant Man. And so someone had told Mel Brooks, like, you got to check out this guy, David Lynch, Eraserhead. So they had David Lynch go to the screening of Eraserhead, and Mel Brooks watched it and loved it. And apparently Mel Brooks ran out of the theater and was like, you're a madman. And he put his arms around David Lynch.
Oh, wow.
And he offered him Elephant Man.
Okay.
Elephant Man was a huge critical hit, multiple Oscar nominations. It's a beautiful, wonderful film. Elevates David Lynch to like the stratosphere. And then he's handed Dune. So Dune is the next. Dune happens in 1984. Massive commercial failure. He's like sort of like destroyed as far as like Hollywood's concerned. He talks about that movie very negatively. I love Dune. If we ever do a Dune,
wait, you
David
like
Lynch,
Dune?
I'm yes. When people are asking me why aren't you doing a Twin Peaks podcast, it was like, why aren't you doing a Dune podcast?
Absolutely.
So anyway, that sort of like breaks him down, and he learns like never not have final cut, and it's like a failure for him artistically, but it's also a thing that sort of sets him on his way, and thank God this happened. And then he does Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet's sort of a hit. That leads to Twin Peaks. He leaves Twin Peaks and does Wild at Heart. And then after...
Oh, okay. So Wild at Heart was after that.
Yeah, and
Gotcha.
then he goes on after that. But let's
Gotcha.
start with the pilot, which we're here for. Northwest Passage. This is written by Mark Frost and David Lynch. It's directed by David Lynch. As you mentioned before, it was filmed on location in 1989. But this is not the first Frost-Lynch project. It's the first Frost-Lynch project to see the light of day. But the two had previously been working on a Marilyn Monroe film, which was based on a book called Goddess. They were calling the project Venus Descending. But you can see the DNA of the Marilyn Monroe, beautiful woman filled with secrets, killed, like that you can see easily how that can tie right into it. Even Cooper talks at one point about who really killed Marilyn Monroe and all that stuff. The two also wrote a script for a movie called One Saliva Bubble, which I remember in high school hearing, like, you got to find and read this script. It was like Ronnie Rocket you would hear about, which was a David Lynch project that never happened, and this thing called One Saliva Bubble that apparently was like a body swap comedy that Steve Martin and who's in Martin Short, I can't think of these.
No way.
Those two
What?
were attached to it, and you can find online an interview where they start talking about it.
What is the great lost David Lynch film, One Saliva?
One Saliva Bubble.
Tell us about that.
Oh, well, that, I don't know why you even, it was a David Lynch wrote this with a partner, I can't remember his name, wrote a masterful script called One Saliva Bubble. This was like in the early 80s, 89, was it really? And wait, were you offered it?
Yes, we were going to do it together.
Oh, really? I didn't remember that.
Well, I don't know.
But anyway, it was a great script, but it never got made.
Yeah.
And I dig it out every once in a while.
I do remember from the luncheons, we had two different luncheons. You were there, and I remember he was going out with Isabella Rossellini.
Ooh, yeah.
And I remember just sitting there saying, even the way she moves her hands are beautiful.
You can find it, I think, davidlynch.net or one of those sites. You can download the script. Sadly, I've never read it. I don't know why I haven't read it, but it's supposed to be amazing. David Lynch gets a lot of credit for Twin Peaks, and rightfully so, but a lot of it is Mark Frost, and David Lynch has said, at least 50% is Mark Frost. So
what else has Frost done?
He was from Hill Street Blues, so he had a lot of TV experience, which I think made selling the show so much easier. it
The
wasn't
structure of it and all of that. Yeah, this
100%.
is going to be super important.
He
to him. Yep.
apparently based like the idea for Twin Peaks was on there's a real murder in 1908 of this woman Hazel Drew, where teen hikers in a small community discover a body, and what follows is a revelation that she's full of secrets, and there's all these things that happen. She had sort of a secret life. So that story sort of feeds into Mark Frost, and then when Mark Frost is younger, he has a crush on his friend's older sister. And this woman is his dad, who plays Doc Hayward. We'll meet him later. Mark Frost's dad, his friend, it's his daughter. This girl goes off to boarding school and is murdered by her boyfriend. So you can imagine like a young Mark Frost, like the effect that would have on him, and the idea of this murder in a small town and how it affects
Kind
people.
of seeding all of that.
Yeah, you can see how. So the two of them together naturally felt like a good. Apparently, they hit it off very well, and they went around to pitch a show. The rumor is David Lynch, before they even really knew what it was talking to executives, and he just put his hand in the air and said, like, it's the sound of a wind through the trees, which was almost the name of this podcast, actually.
I mean, it is just one of the most striking images in the entire series, and repeated images.
Yes, and you feel it. You feel the wind. Obviously, there's parts where you can hear the wind, but it's like perfect. It's the perfect way
perfect.
of.
And it also, through the later additions to the mythos, everything comes in the books. Just it's funny how an image like that, and I feel like maybe this is just my read of Lynch too, but like, an image like that can have so much emotional import, but that also carries narratively throughout an entire story, from the very beginning of the pilot through the return, through Firewalk. It's just this feeling that is true the whole way through. And it feels so strange to be like, the wind through the trees is a feeling that's true in the whole, but but if you're listening to this, you know what I'm talking about, because I don't think you're probably a listener not coming to this being like, I want to know what Twin Peaks is. Let me start with a podcast.
And he talks about that a lot, like you find the original idea, and he talks a lot about meditation and diving deep within and finding this thought. But it's like when you find that idea, the idea that sparks all of these new ideas, you want to stay true to that, and you want to always keep that feeling. And when we get into the second season, it veers away from that and it becomes something else. And it's all about bringing it back to that mood, that vibe, whatever you want to call it, that the wind through the trees. And that's what it is. He said too, David Lynch has said, like, of all of Twin Peaks, at least this was before the return, the pilot for him is Twin Peaks. It's something they shot on location. It was more like a movie, and everything after that was more like, in a soundstage or a TV show. He always said, like, the pilot, this was like the essence of what the show is. When they pitched the show, it was a very interesting time too, right? Because ABC didn't have a lot going on. So they sort of needed something. It was like a perfect storm to get Twin Peaks made. There was also, while this was going on, there was a huge writer's strike. So there's this drought of like creative content anyway going through Hollywood and television. So all of that stuff sort of perfectly lined up, but they were still kind of nervous because it's a weird show. So they made a stipulation to Mark Frost and David Lynch and was like, listen, we're going to shoot the pilot, give you the money to make the pilot, but you're going to shoot an ending on this because we want to be able to take this whole show, repackage it as a movie, and sell it to international distributors.
Just to cover their bases for the
cost.
Just
to cover the bases of the cost. If it doesn't get picked up for series, we're not out of the money. We're going to make it back overseas.
Right.
This creates a weird rights thing, which happens at the time. So when you were a fan and you were trying to get the video cassettes of Twin Peaks, you couldn't get the pilot. You had to get the pilot as a separate rental that you would go to the video store to watch. And for a while, the rights were separated. There since have come back together. But what's so wonderful about David Lynch and the way that he approaches creative projects is most people would have a situation like that and be like, ugh, I got to shoot this stupid ending on the show, and I don't know what are we going to do, and this is dumb. Or like every obstacle that he's presented with, he sees opportunities. There's no negative things that happen, and it happens multiple times in Twin Peaks. Mistakes aren't mistakes. They are new paths for storytelling. So he has no idea what he's doing for the end. He doesn't know what it's going to be. Dwayne Dunham and David Lynch are outside smoking a cigarette. And apparently, there's a bunch of cars parked there. David Lynch puts his hand on the hood of a car that's still warm. And it's this wonderful warmth feeling that he feels. And then it hits him like a lightning bolt. He sees the Red Room. He sees the Man from Another Place. He sees all of these things and some stuff that's happening, which we'll get to when we talk about the show, that happened while they were making the pilot. It was like, oh, I'll use this character here. I'll use this character there. And then he shoots the scene, which is wonderful. And as you said, we'll cover it later on because they're going to
shoots the finale.
He shoots the Red Room in the end of the international movie, which we'll talk talk about a little bit at the end. I don't want to cover too much of it because we're going to see so much more of that stuff. And it's just so wonderful because some of the greatest stuff that happened in Twin Peaks did not come out on the page on a typewriter. It came in the moment of making the thing.
Isn't that just... first of all, I choose to believe all of that is true, whether it is 100% true or not. It's like you said with Bill Pullman, or Bill Pullman's character in Lost Highway. I choose to believe that as opposed to what literally happened.
Yeah, and that's 100% true according to him. Like, he talks about it in Catching the Big Fish, which I highly recommend. It's a book that David Lynch wrote on creativity, and he covers some of his projects. And also in Room to Dream, which is also really good, because I've never read a biography quite like this. So the structure of the biography is there's a biographer and she'll write a chapter and then David Lynch writes the response to the chapter.
Interesting.
So he'll be like, I don't remember that at all. Or no, this is actually how it happened. So you get like these two views. But yeah, he said that story about the warmth and the hand, like, so that came out of his mouth.
What I love about it is I'm not saying this is the case, but even if it's not factually true, it is true in a different sense. And I love that these pieces, like I've said before, these are the pieces of Twin Peaks that I absolutely adore. The mythos part of it, the everything with the lodge, the Man from Another Place, all this is just the part that feels so inspired and so electrifying to me, and that it came to him in a moment of intuition.
Yeah.
It makes the most sense in the world because it has its own logic and it has its own feeling, and it came to him maybe not fully formed, but fully maybe not fully realized, but maybe fully formed in a kind of emotional way, is incredible to me.
Yeah, and he talks about ideas in that sense that he is not the one making these things. Like, he's catching these things.
Kyle MacLachlan said that in his post, kind of this almost a eulogy, quite honestly, and it was absolutely beautiful. But that he was this kind of channeling the universe as opposed to directing it.
Right. He compares it to like when you eat a fine meal, you don't thank the chef for growing the fish. Right. It's how they prepare the fish. So these things are just things that he's catching from the universal subconscious or whatever.
Almost curating it in a way, but it's all coming from someplace else.
Right. Which I believe in.
I love
so
that.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've had similar ideas to that just appear, and people are like, where did you get the idea for doing whatever? It's like sometimes it just comes and you follow it and you take it and then you run with it. So like, yeah, I love that. And it makes me feel so good and want to do my own work differently, is to not look at limitations as negatives, or if something goes wrong, or if a shot gets messed up, like follow that. And then, so that it's just
give it a try. Why not see if that goes someplace? And then if not, you just go back. Yeah, I think that's fantastic.
So ABC says yes, they shoot this thing in 1989, pretty much on location in the Pacific Northwest. They run it for test audiences. It's hugely successful.
I'm going to use you as my Wikipedia because you seem to know all of this off the top of your head. But where in the Pacific Northwest?
Washington State. It's in Snoqualmie, and I know I'm mispronouncing that, so apologies to everyone who's watching from there. But have me over. I would love to visit. It's one of my lifelong dreams is to one day go there and maybe spend the rest of my life there. So it ends up like having like very high audience reaction when they do like their test screenings. It becomes a mid-season replacement. That's why the first season of Twin Peaks is only 6 episodes, because it's half of a season. Mm-hmm. And they go for it, and it airs on Sunday, April 8th, 1990 at 9 p.m. on ABC. It's a 2-hour premiere. Then it would regularly play at on Thursdays for a while, and it's going to get moved around a couple times at 9 p.m. It was up against Murder, She Wrote,
Ooh,
Married with Children, and Jesus of Nazareth.
was that like a TV movie?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, because I don't remember a series.
It wasn't like it was like this week Jesus solves the murder, or Jesus is just getting into shenanigans.
Jesus, Texas Ranger.
Jesus Texas Ranger is probably in the future. Like
Pretty good.
Yeah, I think that
That's
you
where
could
we're
probably
heading.
sell that to Fox Family or whatever. It beats Jesus, 34.6 million people. Now, I've been using a site called tvtango.com.
Of course.
They have
Tango.
Twin Peaks winning with 34.6 million to 33 share. But if you go on Wikipedia, it says Married with Children won in the ratings. I don't know. You decide. I'm going to go and say Twin Peaks wins.
Why not?
It does anyway, it's a hit. Like, it's immediately a hit. People seem to be invested. And
Isn't
so
that crazy though? I mean, honestly, when you think about the other shows, I will never say a bad word about Murder, She Wrote, and Angela Lansbury.
Yeah.
Jesus of Nazareth, Married with Children. Like what's going on at that time, and this is a hit. I'm obviously thankful beyond measure that it really was, but it is shocking to me that it was a hit on broadcast TV.
And again, nothing had ever been put out like this. So it was just sort of the perfect time, and people were interested, and the whole thing just kind of worked. It's really amazing that it happened.
She's dead, wrapped in plastic.
All right, now, Dan, since this is the first episode or pilot episode, as we've been talking about, of Twin Peaks, I think it makes sense that we talk about the iconic opening, the beautiful, wonderful music of the great, late Angelo Badalamenti, both the opening, which we all know, and the closing, which I think the closing is just as important. Laura's theme is beautiful. Give me your impressions, your initial impressions of the opening.
Yeah, it's really incredible. I don't know if it's a combination. It's probably a combination of things, but it is a 2-minute opening sequence, title sequence ish, until it gets into it. It's really long. I think it does exactly. This is something that doesn't happen in TV shows now. Like, there pretty much are no title sequences, or if they are, they're really short. They don't really set the tone. I think in this era, that opening sequence is really meant to set the time and place and mood. And this does that in spades. It really does all those things, but it's at such a leisurely pace that I think is hypnotic in a way. It's not even until 40 something seconds into the opening that we get the title card. There's no title card until 42 seconds into the entire thing. So it really, really takes its time getting into it. But for me, just even that first bass guitar, I'm guessing, but that first bass note on its own completely sets the tone. Like, I just drop right into it, and it's just amazing. The visuals are fantastic. I don't know if you know this. The first image we see is of the bird.
The bird, yeah.
I'm assuming
into the smokestack.
Yeah, bird into smokestack. It looked to me like a mourning dove, which would be very interesting as a mourning dove. About mourning.
I don't think it is a
But
morning.
either way, just like, it's interesting that was the first symbol that he chose to present the entire show, going right into the smokestack, and it's not even the sawmill cutting logs, it's sharpening blades as it's going. It's the mechanical, like, sharpening blades, and the sparks coming off of that is really interesting.
Well, no, you could keep going. I haven't answered your question. You stumped me because I didn't know what
Please.
bird it was. It is the varied thrush.
That was on the tip of my tongue. No.
Which is native to. Well, you know what? Honestly, I Googled it and it came up, and it's the AI overview, which if you've used Google in the last 2 or 3 months, it's never right. It is a thrush. Okay, I'm seeing it on Autobahn, who I trust. It is a thrush.
Huh. I wonder we could
Beautiful bird.
do a little symbology there as well. But anyway, yeah, this was great. It does hang on the Welcome to Twin Peaks sign for quite a long time. So everything else is just like the imagery coming one after the other, but it does hang on that Welcome to Twin Peaks. The population of 51,201 people is interesting because it's referenced as a small town, but that's like bigger than the small town I grew up in. I grew up in a very small town.
Yeah, I had heard it was much smaller, 5,000 or so people, and the network was concerned that people wouldn't want to watch a show with a population that small. So they just added a 1 and made it 51,000.
That's like a very small city, but that's not a small town at all. It's just a weird detail. It doesn't matter in the scheme of things, but like that was very odd. Anyway, so there's that. I think there's a lot of like, not to get too film like a freshman film critique into this, but I do love the imagery of following the moving water down the river, and we see the reflection of trees. We don't actually see the trees themselves, so it's this kind of light and dark and mirror reflection. I thought it was great. The score is fantastic. It's monotonous and dreamy in the best possible way, but it swells into this like really romantic tone. Just fantastic. I could probably go on, but I've said enough and people are already asleep. How do you feel? What does this do to you? What does this do to you?
This is the greatest. I mean, I feel like I was so in love with the theme that I had my little cassette recorder and I taped it off the TV and I would listen to it over and over because it's a beautiful piece. And like you're saying, it's unlike any other title sequence at the time. If you think about television, there's no shots of like Agent Cooper grabbing a cup of coffee with his thumbs up and it says Kyle MacLachlan under it, or like Andy with tape all over his head. Like that's how a typical sitcom or drama would have been if you look at the opening of Dynasty or any of these shows.
Yeah.
The fact that it is just this long meditative take and I love that it's the sharpening of blades, because it's the magic of the forest and the trees, but these are machines designed to kill trees that we're focusing on. So you have like you start with a natural image of the bird, and then it's juxtaposed with the smokestack polluting, and then it's again weapons that destroy nature. I love, the waterfall, the place. It just establishes that the setting is maybe the most important character, although I would say it's Laura, and we get to that in why I like the ending so much too, because we're reminded that this is a show about Laura with her photo. Angelo Badalamenti, brilliant composer. I feel like the music of Twin Peaks is such an important part of the show and why the show connects with so many people. Angelo Badalamenti had worked with David Lynch prior on Blue Velvet. Angelo knew Julie Cruz, so the three of them end up recording Mysteries of Love for Blue Velvet. So now when Twin Peaks comes around, he goes right to Angelo, and he's worked with Julie Cruz, and the three of them craft some of the greatest music, certainly from anything that's ever been on television. And if you've ever listened to Angelo Badalamenti or David Lynch talk about how the two of them work together, it's fascinating. So like Angelo would sit at the piano,
and David would say, "Okay, Angelo, we're in a dark woods now, and there's a soft wind blowing through some sycamore trees, and you can hear the hoot of an owl, and you're in the dark woods. Just get me into that beautiful darkness with the soft wind." And I started playing. And David would say, "Angelo, that's great. I love that. That's a good mood, but can you play it slower?" And I'd say, "Slower, David? Okay." And I'd go. He says, "That's it. That's a good tempo. Just keep it going slow like that." Just keep that going for a while. And in David's mind, you can just see that he was visualizing the description that he envisioned. Then he would say, okay, Angelo, now we got to make a change, because from behind a tree in the back of the woods, there's this very lonely girl. Her name is Laura Palmer, and it's very sad, but get something that matches her. And I just segued into this. And he'd say, oh, that's it. It's very beautiful. I could see her. And she's walking towards the camera, and she's coming closer. Just keep building it. Just keep building it. And she's getting close. Now reach some kind of climax. And I would go, and he said, oh, that's it. Oh, that's so beautiful. Angelo. Oh, that's tearing my heart out. I love that. Just keep that going. Now, she's starting to leave. So fall down. Keep falling. Keep falling. Keep falling. Now go back into the dark woods. That's it. Keep going. Just keep it going. Very quiet and mysterious. David got up, he gave me a big hug. He said, Angelo, that's Twin Peaks.
Angelo takes you through how they built Laura's theme, which is what plays at the end when we see her picture. And it's just so beautiful. And I feel like you're establishing the mood, the show, that it's going to take its time, and it's unlike anything that you've ever seen before. And on this first pilot, it's so cool because we go down to the water and we see the ducks, and then we immediately start the first scene of the show. Like from the water, we rise up, and now we're looking at the Packard home. We meet Josie Packard at first, a mysterious figure. When they were first going to do this, originally it was Giovanni Packard. It was going to be played by Isabella Rossellini. She was going to be an Italian woman before they cast Joan Chen. Joan Chen is
incredible,
perfect in this.
Yes.
We see Pete Martell going fishing. We meet
Catherine
Martell. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah.
And then Pete discovers the body. We call the sheriff. We meet Lucy and Harry. So there's a lot going on, and we're off and running almost instantly with the discovery of the body. So what was your take, if you can remember, either the first time through or even just revisiting it, how this opening works for you? Also, before you start, I am eating cherry pie I am actually.
He is literally eating. So I hope it's too late in the evening for me to have a fine cup of coffee, but that's great. This is lovely. Eric, I can't put myself in the place of where I was, how I felt when I saw it for the first time. But seeing it this time through and knowing where it's going and knowing that we're going to see these characters, I think maybe I mentioned before, kind of just watched it without taking in notes, just like watching it, just to kind of get back into the world of it and being like, oh yeah, this character, oh this character, oh this is going to happen. So now the second time watching it through again, so I could prepare a little bit better. Really seeing, like you said, you come from the waterfall and then you see the exterior of the Packard house with the ducks in the foreground. And the house itself is, all you can tell is it's big and it's on the water, but you can't really see it. It's already hidden. It's hidden behind trees. It's got a staircase outside that goes one direction, and the balconies. It's just hard to put the pieces together right away of this exterior. But then you come inside and you already have this dislocated feeling of seeing two characters. Well, first you see Josie, putting on makeup,
yeah.
Looking at herself in the mirror, and I can't discern what her thoughts are. She's not even putting makeup on at the time. She's kind of just idly staring at herself and contemplating.
Yeah, it's a very mysterious scene.
Very ambiguous.
Absolutely.
And you can't even necessarily know that that's connected, that she's, in some other part of this house to what you then see of Pete coming in Oh, Pete. Just Pete.
Pete.
It's just
The late great Jack Nance, and yeah,
amazing. And then Piper Laurie, obviously, like superstar Piper Laurie there. But then just their relationship, you can't even discern. Are they husband and wife? Are they brother and sister?
I feel like the relationship that you get from them is so perfect because with one line, going fishing or you know that their marriage is in trouble. Like I feel like the script is so good for this pilot. So for me, I feel like just with that one line, I don't know.
I would say by the end of that what I'm saying is when you first see them come together, what's going on here? It's just like a familial scene. It, it is the writing. It is Piper Laurie's dismissive, disdainful look at him as she barely even looks up from the paper to acknowledge him and then looks back down again as Pete tries to give her a little nuzzle on the ear. Like, yes, after that, okay, now I know what's going on. But at first, just like, there's a woman looking in a mirror. Now there's just two people. And and then, yes, it starts coming clear. Right.
You mentioned it earlier when we talked about the show and why the ratings were so good. It's perfect. And I can see why the ratings are so good. The show starts and you're instantly in a mystery. The way it moves from scene to scene to scene, you're not changing the channel. Every characters, there's so many characters. We're going to introduce a lot of characters.
Yep.
But characters are talked about a lot of the times in a scene before you see them. And like the connections between each character, it just flows so beautifully.
Yes.
And within like a few minutes, there is a dead girl wrapped in plastic. And that line when
that's
Pete,
not
Pete
yeah,
calls
but yeah.
the sheriff, the station, she's dead, wrapped in plastic. I mean, it's perfect. And Harry's response, we're going to jump soon to the
I'm not going to disagree with you at all. I'm going to add on to that and say, yes, the writing, without a doubt, 100%. But it is, for the most part, I would say 85, 90% of the performances multiply that so far. So, I mean, Pete's characterization is fantastic. Like I said, Piper Laurie with just a look does it. I mean, all the characters. I'm going to gush over all the characters. Lucy, you get to get introduced to her real soon, and she's it's fantastic. But Pete coming out to go fishing. It's even, this is to the writing, he says, like, the lonesome foghorn blows, and he's just like, what mood is he in? He's just going out to go fishing. He's obviously had this little thing with his wife, but like that's not a new thing. So that's regular for him. But he hears that in the lonesome foghorn blows. And this time, this is why it's, I think, better having seen it so many times. And this time through, seeing Laura already there in the background before Pete sees her. First time through, you wouldn't necessarily know what is that thing in the distance by that massive log, that incredibly huge tree. You don't even notice that, but like seeing it this time, you're like, oh, I can't even wait. Like it's already there in 30 seconds into the show, and it's right there.
And I say this in the opening of this what you're listening to now, so you've already heard it. But we are not spoiling anything, although we're spoiling anything that happened in the pilot. We're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Dan and I already know the solution to this mystery, but we will not be saying it.
Right.
But so I am going to try to.
It's gonna be hard for you, buddy.
Yeah, to just treat it as I did the first time with like, okay, here's a clue. This person now could be the killer, or this person might be a killer, or look over here. And just sort of like point those things out as I see them.
Definitely a good thing to kind of keep in mind for myself as well as we're going.
And then Pete jumps over. He's calling the sheriff's station.
Yep.
So the news starts to spread, and it spreads very quickly through this town. So at the sheriff's station, we're going to meet Lucy. We're going to meet Harry, who takes the call. And then we hear about Doc Hayward and Andy, like Harry's like to Lucy. So we're already sort of being prepared for new characters that are going to come. And then the police, we go to the investigation, and we finally do meet Andy and Doc Hayward, and we learn that the identity of the deceased girl is Laura Palmer.
I like that the way that you brought that up, because maybe it didn't really occur to me, except it did with Harry asking, talking to Lucy and tell Andy to get his butt out of bed or something along those lines. You already established the relationship between Lucy and Andy, but Lucy, man, her voice, her characterism, I think this is, obviously the first part of this. This is a a style within the show that I think we talked about previously that could, in the wrong hands, lead towards campiness, detached irony, a falseness.
Well, and her name is Moran as well, so you get
Yeah,
yeah.
it's great. But and she plays it so well. And in that moment, first thing we're seeing is her over explaining which phone she's gonna, and it's within eyesight. She can literally, it's 15 feet away and it's going to ring anyway. I love that. And like I said, in someone else's hands, that could have been really silly or campy or funny. And though it's amusing, it's not. I don't know how to explain it. You know what I mean? It's amusing. It's not funny.
No, because she's endearing, and you don't feel like you're necessarily laughing at her.
Right.
You are. I mean, it's certainly, but it's like she's such a likable character, and there's
But not in a derisive way, right? You're laughing at her, but like more of like, oh, Lucy, as opposed to, oh, that idiot. I don't know. I'm in love with her. I think she's fantastic. But then we get Harry, who also I think is like perfectly cast. He's so great. He looks so young to me.
yeah. Well, that you mentioned that too when we get to Cooper, how young Cooper is, and for whatever reason, I'm well older than all of
Way
them,
older.
but I'm still locked in being 15. So they always seem older to me. Even like Cooper, when we get to Kyle MacLachlan, like, yeah, he's a baby, but he still looks exactly the right age that he should be.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to get to these other characters as well later in their relationships. But I'm about 50 years old, just ish. I don't know how old Piper Laurie was in this, or the actor playing Ben Horn.
And that's another thing that I want to add in. You talk about like why did it get a lot of ratings? I remember my mom knowing that this thing was coming on because of Russ Tamblyn and because of I'm blanking on the actor that plays Ben Horn.
Yeah.
Because they're from West Side Story and
Oh, yeah.
Piper Laurie and Peggy Lipton. Like
Yes.
they
yes.
cast a lot of actors that from a previous generation that would connect to them when they were younger. They were in this.
Absolutely.
It's like perfectly cast.
Yeah, just beautiful in that way. Yeah. Well, in this way, yeah. But I think that's when we do get Pete with that exquisite line reading of "she's dead, wrapped in blood." Just
Yeah.
the way his I don't where he places his consonants or whatever, just the way he says it, it's just amazing.
No, Jack Nance is amazing. Who started off? He's he's in Eraserhead. He's been in just about every David Lynch project.
Yeah.
He was a Harkonnen. We're going to get to some Dune characters in this as well. I love the crime scene. So again, we had just heard, we were in a previous scene at the sheriff's station, so we know, get Doc Hayward on the phone, get Andy over here. So then we see them. So again, we have this situation where we're hearing about people and seeing people, and it's amazing that we get to see Andy crying before he even knows that it's Laura.
Yes.
So he's so full of emotion, and it pays off really well later on in the pilot. But once you do hear that it's Laura and it's Doc Hayward, who is Mark Frost's father, I think I mentioned that before, you see how much her death is affecting everyone there. Like the way Doc Hayward says, oh my God, it's Laura Palmer. And even Truman, repeats that. So you can just feel already that this is a very important person that people loved.
It is interesting that we do see, as they are doing investigating the crime scene, the first thing we actually see is both Josie and Catherine, presumably standing on the porch of the house where Pete had exited before, standing side by side together, not talking, but both kind of wrapped in blankets and looking at this. I don't know if there's any visual symbology there, but they're both kind of wrapped up as well. These two women who have this struggle against each other, looking on at these men. But I just want to come back, and you said everything that you need to say about Andy. But I just want to say it again. His humanity, his heart before we see anything else about him or no. And Harry says, "Is this gonna happen every time?" It's
So you
just-
know this is a repeat. Not that they get a lot of deaths, but when they do, he's crying.
Right. But they're not. I mean, Truman's a little frustrated maybe because it's a serious situation, but like even Doc Hayward is just like, it's okay, Andy. I'll take the photos for you. Like they're again, it's another one of those things where you could imagine everyone being just like this idiot or this is so frustrating, but they're not like that at all. They're very humane to each other.
It's like a family community. Like they
Absolutely.
all work together. They all have a relationship.
They all
together.
know each other so well.
And this, like, once we know it's Laura Palmer, it starts to,
Here we go.
the ripples start to echo, and we immediately go to the Palmer house. We
Mhm.
meet Sarah Palmer. Laura should be home, but she isn't. There's a lot of panic that's going through Sarah. Another great piece of writing is now through Sarah Palmer, we're going to call different places, and we get to see Major Briggs
Mm,
and his wife, Betty. And we learn about Bobby, her boyfriend, before we meet him.
yep.
From his parents and then from the coach, and we see Mike for the first time, and we start to seed things, some suspicion about Bobby, like, oh, he's been late for practice every day, and all of that stuff goes.
Right. Yeah, I mean, first another thing, setting the time and place. It's 1990, and Sarah Palmer smoking, almost chain smoking, really throughout this entire thing, but like smoking in the
Yeah, she's a
kitchen.
big smoker.
It is funny to like look in the background. All throughout the Palmer house. I noticed this so many times. It's like, oh my god, my parents had those shutters. My parents had these. Like it was just so recognizable to me of so much of this. But I guess it's because of the repeated viewing. I don't know if I would have felt this the first time seeing it, but the first time we see the staircase just made my stomach drop. It
Yeah,
just
the staircase and the overhead fan.
and the overhead fan,
becomes
yes.
a repeating
It just and I
machine that makes wind indoors, Dan.
oh my goodness, it's all coming together. If they just had a little potted plant blowing underneath it, it would be perfect. But it's just a very banal home setting that you would walk by without thinking about it, but already immediately just gave me the chills. It's because I know what's coming, what I've seen, so like it's retroactive in that way, but still.
Even on its own, just the way it's composed is a very unsettling feeling.
But it's also in a lot of darkness until Sarah goes up and is looking for Laura and calling for her and opens the doors and brings the light in as she's looking around. We get that panning shot of her looking for Laura in her bedroom and goes from the closet and the foot of the bed over around the room, which obviously comes back later. But to see that, and that's when Sarah's coming down the stairs, but she does come down at normal speed, unbothered at that time. But we know where that's going to be going. It's just like, oh my God, it's just the creepiest thing in the world.
But you can feel like the panic too, sort of building on her. And then I just wanted to take a minute to talk about Major Briggs, wonderful character. He is sitting, he's in full uniform.
Mm-hmm.
He's sitting in that seat with Betty behind him. Now, she's sort of giving him a massage, but when she takes the phone call, she's got scissors in her hand. So I'm imagining she's giving him a haircut or something. Like, what's happening? Because when she does take the phone call from Sarah, she's got a pair of scissors in her hand.
Oh, that's so interesting.
He's in a like, I'm going to get a haircut from my wife type posture, although
He's
looks
kind of
like-
always in that posture. So who knows?
He's such a great character.
I didn't actually notice the scissors for whatever reason, but the way that Betty interacts with Major Briggs, I don't know if I don't know if this really comes up anywhere else, or maybe I'm just projecting, but is there a sense of like is there a sense of like walking on eggshells around him or not? Like I don't
No,
see him as like
no.
an
I've
authoritarian.
never felt that.
Okay,
ever.
all right. It's just the way this was kind of doting, maybe. It was more of the what I was reading. She's doting on him.
He's an important person, and that's what they're establishing.
Like he's like ready to be presented at a
Yeah,
parade.
he's involved in important business.
Absolutely.
Then we jump over to the Great Northern. We're going to see Audrey Horne with the short haircut that's not only going to last for this pilot. We get to meet Ben Horne. We get to meet Leland Palmer. We learn the original details that there's a deal underway for Ghostwood Estates, and Leland's, that deal's interrupted when Leland gets that call from Sarah. Truman arrives, and Sarah knows pretty much what's happened before Leland tells her.
Oh man, this is
a great scene.
This scene has so much in it. But the introduction of Audrey walking out of the Great Northern, she's in this. This is really to me the start of the Lynch's motif of the 50s coming through everything, because she's dressed in a very 50s style. It is
with the shoes and
yeah,
coming out
it's
of the
definitely the shoes.
limo.
She's wearing the what do they call them? Saddle shoes. They're normally worn with bobby socks, but she's wearing hose instead, and we'll see why she does that later. But she's got a tight-fitting sweater, but it's also modest at the same time because it's full like coverage, even the neck. But she's got that 50s, what do we call it, the hourglass figure going on,
Mm-hmm.
and that skirt looks incredible, but it's also below the knees, so it's at the same time both very conservative and modest, but incredibly sexy at the same time in a crazy way. And I love how she's like walking out to the chauffeured car, and there's the pause on her feet, the settlement before she like puts them into the car. It's just what an interesting, fun detail, and she's just kind of looking out the window.
And it's great because you realize that's how she goes to school, like in a limo. So it's a great little detail about the first time we're going to see her.
Absolutely.
And in general, like the women in Twin Peaks are all beautiful. And as like a 15-year-old, like I was just in love with all of them.
How could you
Audrey
not
Horne
be?
especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, he cast some very attractive people.
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously beyond that, exceptional actors and actresses throughout. I mean, just fantastic. But yeah, they were all stunning in their own way. It is funny. We see Ben and Leland for the first time there, and they're kind of talking through the deal. And Ben just hawks a loogie into the fireplace, and Leland
Yeah.
kind of turns away disgusted-ish. I don't want to read too much into it because I also don't remember the exact details of everything that's to come. Because again, it's been 20 years since I've seen this. But I kind of feel like they've done weirder shit in front of each other before. But it's just like a weird moment of like, ugh, you're so disgusting. Anyway, as they go on, just a small note. It is funny
Well,
that
with that, just to jump on that, 'cause
Yeah.
it's, I'm gonna say a similar setting. The first time you see Ben is you see the fire, and then you see Ben, and this is a mystery of which you're trying to figure out who's killed Laura Palmer. And watching that was like for me like the first clue that was like, okay, there's something about this guy Ben because of fire and
Mhm.
all of that stuff. So
Yeah, absolutely. Ben says he has this, on good advice that, or not good, good insight that the mill's going to be going belly up, and we find that he's actually that the Ghostwood Estates thing they're putting together is really dependent on getting the Packers Mills land. We find out later how he has that information. It is funny that it says to Leland, "Let's go get those cheese eaters to sign the deal," and they're Norwegians, which is not really known for their cheese at all. It's such a weird.
yeah, I'm not sure what that is, but it's this the perfect characterization that like he's so nice to these people when he's in
Yes.
front of them, but then behind the scenes he could care less about you, but he doesn't even know enough about you to get even that right. You know what I mean? Like, but there's a lot of stuff with cheese though, because when we're getting ahead of it, but Jerry Horn goes up, comes home with a cheese cow, and like so there's a whole thing with cheese going on with him. What I love in this scene was the because later on we go and we actually see the Norwegians, and that whole line about my air sacs
have never felt so good.
It's
I find myself saying that all the time.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
I love it.
I absolutely love that too. The whole, translating in real time. But no, that was a really good point though about like he will insult them but not bother to learn how he's supposed to insult them the right way is really a great characterization of him. But then we do go right into Leland Julie, I think it is, the concierge receptionist at the Great Northern comes to get Leland to say he has a phone call. So yeah, we go right into the next scene with Leland taking the phone call from a frantic Sarah who's been calling around. She called the field house, who wasn't there. Obviously called the Briggs before, and thought maybe, I guess, Laura had gotten a ride with Leland to go to school since he was leaving early. Jesus, her performance through this.
Yeah, the great Grace Zabriskie. That's
Iconic.
and the falling phone, and she knows it, and her heart's just smashed in pieces.
Her hands on the side of her face, clutching her head, her hands in her hair is you could just take a still from that, and that is so much of this whole pilot. It just is shattering, and
Yeah.
it's just so beautiful. And obviously Leland too, realizing the inevitability of what Truman's going to tell him, and just, he's also starting to break down. Oh my God.
Yeah, because he's trying to be strong for his wife, who's falling apart, and saying, of course, maybe she's with Bobby, and then he knows too,
Yeah.
like when Harry's coming up, and like to have a scene like that with these two characters, Harry telling this horrible news to Leland, and Leland accepting it, while another woman in another place is on the phone that is equally as important to the scene.
Yeah.
And the cuts back and forth between her and
Yeah.
the phone, and then him hearing the news, and then the phone just hanging there, and
Yeah.
perfect.
And she's
Perfect.
present the entire time of the scene, because he doesn't hang up. Like you said, he drops the phone, and you just hear her wailing the whole, just, what's the word? Keening. She's just this bottom of her soul. It was such an incredible performance. And that long lingering camera panning down the curly phone cord to the receiver, and the one more wail at the end. Ah, so good.
But we have so many more characters to get to, because then we jump out, and now we're going to be we're at the Double R Diner, and we get to meet Bobby, and we get to meet Shelley, and we get to meet Heidi, the waitress, one time until maybe we see her again. We get Norma Jennings. So we get, and again, we've heard about Bobby. So it's not a total surprise. We've heard multiple people say the word Bobby. So when Norma's like, I thought you were only about making time, Bobby. Like that whole exchange, we know who he is. So we have like some background on his character. What did you think of the Double R and these new characters that have been thrown at us?
Yeah, and I like how the characters are getting introduced too. You get the Double R Diner, and you see the interior of it, and it is again this very 1950s, straight out of the 50s feel. The waitresses' uniforms, the fact that Norma says "making time" feels anachronistic even in 1990. Like that's just not a phrase of the time. So it's just again this kind of doubling back of time on itself is so interesting. I mean, even Bobby feels like a greaser in a way with his leather jacket.
Well, yeah, he's got a leather jacket with a varsity letter sewn into it.
It's so it's bonkers, but I love it. Shelley is just stunning. If I had a crush on on any of the women in Twin Peaks, I mean, Shelley just.
Yeah, I was in love with. It was Laura, Shelley, and Audrey, and it was hard to pick. And I remember having a subscription to Rolling Stone magazine, and they did this whole thing.
The Women of Twin Peaks?
Women of Twin
course.
Peaks, and it was like,
Yep.
But we'll have to get your opinions as well, because there's many handsome men. It's like you can't find a character this that isn't attractive.
Yeah, except most of the men are odious. So there's not a whole lot for me to hang on to for a lot of these guys, but okay.
You're not a Hank guy.
We'll get to it. Heidi was wonderful. Her giggling, even when she leaves the screen and she's still giggling in the background.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it.
She's too busy jumpstarting the old man. I mean, you get that line.
It's so good.
The music and the jukebox and see you in my dreams. Like not if I see you first. Like, and then you realize how important music is.
Is that I was going to ask you this before. Did Angelo Badalamenti do all the incidental music throughout?
Yeah.
It feels so perfect for this, but also it's perfect because it's so incorrect. It's so loud. It's so bizarre that why would it be in that jukebox at all, except because it's in David Lynch's universe that it's there.
Yeah, except it's perfect.
Except it's perfect. That's why it's perfect, because it is totally wrong for it. And I want to say that about another song we'll hear later. It feels very similar to me.
I'm
that
hurt
way.
bad, but I love that scene.
That scene's great. You get the dynamics between the people right away. Norma is already twigging to what's going on between Shelley and Bobby, even though they think they're being sly about it. But that whole hey, I'll give you a ride home if you want. Wink, wink. That's great. So we're really getting the relationships already, and just more and more characters. I mean, it doesn't stop. It keeps coming. We get more and more.
And then we get into the car, and Bobby's taking her home, and we learn, they're having an affair. We know Bobby is Laura's boyfriend. But then we also hear about Shelley, and she's got a husband named Leo, and the way that they set Leo. Well, you tell me about this.
Well, if you're going to talk about
Yeah.
any handsome fella, it's going to be Leo Johnson.
Yeah, I love that guy. Eric
Oh,
Naray.
What a horrible piece of work. But
Son of the casting agent, Joanna Ray.
no, that's great. So we do get a lot going on here too. I don't know what the age difference is between Bobby and Shelley here, but like she's basically like pressuring him to drink and drive at the same time with this flask, which is super fun.
He is a senior.
Yeah.
She is the same age, but then dropped out because she got in with Leo. And
I'm not saying that there was like a huge age difference, but just the fact that he is a senior in high school and she's married and working, like there's some, difference there, but she's like pressuring him to drink and talking about the pocket rocket, which just makes me just want to throw up. But that's so great when they're driving. She says, Leo's on the road. He called me from Butte. So we already get this understanding that he's not around a lot, but that she's also like, wary of him. And then they see the rig there.
Yeah.
And that moment of panic on both of them is just, it tells you everything you need to know. And Bobby's just like, I got to get out of here.
That's why this show is so good. We have many setups of who Leo is. And we as an audience are afraid of Leo before we meet him because Bobby's afraid of Leo. And we see his face like when he slams on the brakes. And it's just so perfect. And even the moment when they're driving and you get the police cruisers shooting by too, you get the sense that like something's wrong. Yeah. The kissing and the talking and the affair, and you talk about the pocket rocket and all of that. Like there's sex in the air of twin. Like there's affairs going on, and everybody's sort of like sleeping with everyone else. I got to tell you, like when I was in high school too, like when I first saw that, I thought Bobby was the coolest.
Oh no,
like my hair was pretty much the same. Like, oh my god, yeah, I thought Bobby Briggs was the coolest.
Oh no, do you still feel that way?
No. I mean, I still like Bobby. I love Bobby's whole arc. I mean, we'll get to it when we get to it.
Okay,
where it goes. But no, I definitely think he's cool.
Okay,
we're
Well, there's some scenes later where I feel like that fell apart a little bit, but okay.
You don't like him barking?
No, that's actually not even the scene. But next we get to go to the hospital, and we get to see Leland and Doc Hayward hug as he's getting consoled with Harry there as well. Again, there's obviously this relationship between the families with we haven't met Donna yet, but Donna and Laura being best friends, and Leland being asked to identify the body, and he says, I need to see what was done to my little girl.
Very sad.
And Leland does identify the body. In the room, whenever they finally show Laura's face on the autopsy table, there's a high-pitched buzzing in the background, like the sound of the fluorescent lights going. The lights aren't blinking yet. Not yet. But it is that kind of like, as soon as we see Laura, there is this kind of something off in the background, which I thought was really great. But then the next thing we see immediately is the whipping Douglas fir trees with the wind blowing through them.
Yeah.
And it's just like they're almost bending to the point of snapping. It's just this crazy amount of wind as it brings us right into the whirlwind of the high school and what's going to be happening next.
Yeah, the high school is great because you get, we see Donna and Audrey, and I love Audrey's introduction. Well, not introduction, but when we see a little bit more of her. We get to see James. We get to see the world famous dancing guy. While school begins, you're seeing kids move, and then you see like in the background the police are seen. Bobby arrives, and we get to connect him with Mike, who we saw earlier in the locker room. And the news just spreads through the school with devastating effect.
Absolutely. I mean,
what do you think of Twin Peaks High? Would you want to go there?
Twin Peaks High is great because we got Donna, who is really one of my favorite characters too. They're all my favorite characters, so I can't really pick. But I really like Donna, and I love kind of this acknowledgement that she has. It's hard to tell what their relationship is between Donna and Audrey at this point as well. I think throughout the pilot it is, throughout most of a lot of the series it is as well. But you see Audrey like changing out of her saddle shoes into some red high heels. And puffing on a cigarette before she puts it out of the locker, which is it's so great. And Donna just like gives her kind of a laugh, which is cute. Then we see James come up. Okay, James is great. James. That haircut needs to go, but otherwise, James.
Yeah.
But the nice day for a picnic, and Donna just like kind of giggles a little bit. It's just great. But then we do have Bobby coming in, and when he comes over, he's coming into school. People are looking for him, and he refers to Mike as Snake right away. Like that's kind of the nickname that he sticks with for a lot of it.
He sticks with for the pilot. I don't remember him ever calling Mike Snake ever again. He calls him Snake one more time, and I have that in my notes. I'm like, did I miss that? I don't think he ever calls him Snake.
Oh, that's
again.
interesting. I don't recall actually.
Yeah,
And I
I
didn't
don't
even
think it comes up.
really remember that his nickname was Snake, and maybe that's why, because it only occurs in this part of it. That's interesting. But he does say like something's up, and the whole like, up, what me worry, which is kind of a Mad Magazine reference in a way, and which is also
Yeah.
that was 1950s as well. So it is a lot. Again, I don't want to be like pedantic about look at this, but there is so much of that 1950s nostalgia that gets subverted throughout the show that they just keep having all these little references throughout. Also Mike just sorry, Bobby putting on a show for Mike, basically, of acting like he doesn't care about anything and chugga into the principal's
That's
office.
his whole thing. Yes,
it's
that's
so-
his whole thing. But he
maybe
does
it's-
care, right? He
Maybe
does
it's
like.
because of the distance of time, and if I had seen this when it aired when I was 15 as well, I would have been like, this guy he's the fucking coolest. But it feels to me like so obviously a put on act that it is opposite of what he's trying to get at.
Right. Yeah. It's fine. I think you're more of a Donna and I'm more of a Bobby. I
Okay,
think that's
maybe that's
basically
it.
what it is.
It all came down to that.
I love the. Do you have any more?
No, go
stuff
for it.
on
Yeah,
this?
yeah,
I
no.
love the way that they reveal the death through the school. When you get
Yes.
the shot and again, a lot of characters have this intuition where they sense things are wrong. And it makes sense because everyone's been living around Laura. We're going to learn about all of her secrets. So there's always a sense of a tragedy around her so that people are sort of, they can feel sort of coming. And you get that with Donna when this stuff starts to spread and we see the police and she looks at that shot of the empty seat, which I've stolen and I put that in the Wolf in the Well. I love that moment. Like when they just look over and she sees it and she starts crying. And then you look out the window and that girl's just running, screaming.
Do we know who that is?
No, I think it's just someone that's very lucky. Her running, because the great iconic scene and also the dancing kid, which I mentioned when they're in the hallway and he does that dance. I don't know who you are,
Sideways
sir, but
shuffle through it.
yeah,
is
maybe we
great.
could find him and interview him for this.
Oh, I think that's probably the
podcast,
most important person in all of Twin Peaks to talk to.
And James with his stress break of the pencil. When the group of girls are consoling Donna, and we don't really ever see these girls again.
Nope.
One of the actresses keeps like sort of almost like looking up to see if the shot did
I
they
know.
call cut yet, and then she goes back
I
down.
know.
I find that endearing.
I do love. You're right. That intuition and the empty seat between Donna and James. So they're both looking at the seat, and then they can also both look at each other.
and now they're looking at each other.
And they have that recognition of what's going on. And, Donna is the outward display of it and immediately clutching her heart and is sobbing immediately. And James is trying to keep it together, and it comes out in that broken
What was
broken
once
pencil.
between them is now gone.
I know.
We shall see what happens. It's also interesting because in this scene we get the cop that comes in. He gets a line, but we never see him again. So I always felt bad for that actor because it's like, oh, you're in it and you get the line, but then
One other person that we do see in this scene is Audrey's also in the homeroom with them. What's your read on her as Donna's breaking down and people
completely awesome character. Oh, what was my read on her?
So we get this.
She doesn't
news.
really know. Like I don't get the sense that she was close to Laura, or obviously I know where things go, and I know she says that at one point in the series. But I feel like that's played really well. Like Audrey is this girl that's almost on her own. She follows her own rules. She doesn't. She's literally smoking and putting it out. And I feel like Donna's the goody that can sort of see her and smile, but I don't feel like she even wants to be in class.
Yeah.
So she's not really paying attention or necessarily affected by it in the way that Donna is or James is. Like, I don't feel like you get a read like, she's just sort of there.
Yeah, I was trying to
has
read
be.
her expression. I couldn't tell if it was was she amused or intrigued, but she was definitely not involved at all. It's just
if anything, amused, because she has a darkness,
very dark. Yeah.
That we'll get into.
Okay, great.
So then we jump over and we get the police now are here in the school and they want to talk to Bobby, and the principal makes an official announcement. So now we get a great interrogation scene. Did your love of Bobby decrease massively with the double snaps? or did it?
I know it's so affected. Um, and all intentional. I wonder how much the actor brought to it versus being directed. But he's so kinetic.
Mhm.
His movements, especially in this scene, just like up out of his seat, in your face, double snaps, like all of that is just so he's just hyperkinetic throughout, which is really funny. Even though it's
He
like
loved her,
and,
Dan.
and
He
she
loved her.
loved
Yeah.
me, which is the more important part to him.
You think because I was late for football practice, I killed my girlfriend?
But,
Yeah,
but I,
he's-
I do think that's the thing is like I loved her and she loved me. That's the part that I think is important to him.
Yeah.
Which is the other way around. So, which you can see that almost right
He's a
away in the
handful.
way it is. He is a handful. That's scamp. Um, it the principal is barely able to get through this. Just like you were saying before, we're seeing
'Cause
the
even he's
ripple
affected.
of
Yeah.
every single person being affected, and he was barely able to get through the sentence about a moment of silence and shut off the PA before he starts breaking down as well. Just great. And then this scene ends with the slow zoom into the trophy case and a shot of Laura.
Yeah, you get the famous photo from the trophy
Yep.
case, which is the same photo that we get at the Palmer house when we cut over to there. So we see this girl is important to this home, but she's also important to this school and she's important to this community. So she is sort of the center of things. Yeah, so at the Palmer home, the police are questioning Sarah Palmer. We get introduced to several clues now because this is sort of a mystery police procedural. So we get Laura's diary. We get a camcorder. We know that Laura has received a phone call that night. And the police are then made aware of another girl that's gone missing, Ronette Pulaski. So what did you take of this? Because there's a lot of cool little detective stuff happening in this scene.
Well, I mean, it starts with a matching shot of Laura's photo, and you peel back and you see more photos of Laura behind the sofa. We're in the living room, and Sarah Palmer's getting injected with a sedative by Doc Hayward. And finally, she calms down. It's like, okay, you can talk to her now. Who was the old woman comforting her?
I assume that's her mother.
You would assume, but we don't see her again, do we? No,
We don't see her again. I'm going to say that's her mother, Laura's grandmother.
So it just felt, and it was weird. It's totally fine, but that was just a small detail. Like, huh? So
But that would happen in real life if you still had a grandmother. She would be there when her granddaughter died.
but she would be there. That what I mean is she'd be there throughout. That's the thing.
I guess
and
that's
this is the most important thing.
She lives 2 states away, Dan.
What I'd like to do is talk about this for the next half
Yeah.
hour. We do have Sarah being interrogated or questioned by Harry to get the details. I love Sarah's reaction when she hears footsteps upstairs.
Yeah, who's up there?
This panicked look, and is this a foreshadowing? Is this bubbling up what we see at the end of the? Well, actually, we don't even see it at the end. We're going to see it in the next episode. But like this recollection that she's going to come to are we starting to see the beginnings of that? And then she kind of calms down and says, "No, I know it's not her by the sound of it." So I love that moment of just like panic in her eyes, but then maybe the sedative takes over and she's like relaxes again.
Her acting is fantastic in the scene. Who's upstairs? It's your husband Leland and a police officer. And then when they ask her like, "What time was the call?" Because we learn
Yep.
that she has a call, and she goes, "I don't know who it was." And that exchange just feels so real. The way that she's asked what time was the call, and she answers, "I don't know who it was," like because she's so distraught that she's not even answering questions even remotely correct. You're like, "I don't know who it was." I just feel like it's so perfect. And I like the way that we hear about another girl. They don't call her Ronette Pulaski. They'd say it's the name of, the mill, the guy that works at the mill.
It was
and they say his
Janet,
name, but it's
Janet
yeah.
Pulaski called.
Right.
Yeah.
But I love that because again, this show is so good. Like the editing is great. Like where we're going from the photo to the photo. Now we're saying this guy's daughter's missing. He works at the Packard sawmill. Let's go to the Packard sawmill. Like that. Then the scene moves.
We sure do.
Yeah, to the Packard mill.
We go to Pete.
Yeah, Catherine and Josie's tension escalates as they fight over the closing of the mill, and we see Catherine, Fire Guy the Great, Piper Laurie.
Ugh.
that scene is amazing. So,
But I mean, you get Pete sitting there,
2x4s, 4x8s.
2x4s, 4x8. It's just so
One of the greatest characters.
just amazing, just wonderful. But yeah, this Josie basically being chased by Catherine, and you're not going to do this to my workers because Catherine feels the ownership of this. So we're starting to get the sense of kind of really what's going on here, that Catherine feels like she was rightfully supposed to be given this. Who is this interloper? Josie has said, like, I'd never taken this authority before, so it feels like she's kind of been that passive role throughout, but she's decided in light of Laura's death that they should close the mill, and in light of Janet Pulaski's missing daughter. So they do that. But the fact that Piper is, that Catherine is walking down the stairs after this, and it's just that bitch. There just happens to be a guy there. It's just like, what's your name?
Yeah.
You're fired. It's just.
Yeah. It's just like, feels like a Steve Jobs story or something.
It's so good. It's just, it tells you, again, you're about the writing.
Right. Small scenes, like we see the thing, we get one line going fishing with, and you know how their relationship is.
Yep.
And we saw Josie, but we don't really know, and now we know, that there's a fight over the mill, and we've heard of the mill because of what Ben had said. So, and that's what makes a connection later when we reveal the two of them are together, Ben and Catherine. Like, it's all so good because it's any other show, like any other script, and I don't know who really does what. And Mark Frost has said, like, they never really talked about what ideas are. I feel like I have a good feeling of who's contributing what, but I feel like some of the strength of this script and how the brevity of it and how well and tight it works is probably a lot to do with Mark Frost and coming off Hill Street Blues, because it's flawless. The pacing is great, and to balance this many characters without feeling overwhelmed. I mean, certainly I know the show really well, but watching it the first time, you never feel lost.
Well,
you know,
except in order to then have that release of understanding it. So, like, building confusion is fine because it does pay off. It's not going to leave you forever. Like, this is the actual second time we see Josie, right? The only time we saw her previously was looking in the mirror.
We saw her in the mirror. We see her outside, and now we know
outside as
Catherine
well.
and
Okay,
her
you're
when
right. Okay,
yeah. So it's a slow build, and I really do think it's the way they seed characters before you see them. So you have it in your subconscious or whatever. You've heard this name, and you're making connections to Bobby. You're making, it's just so well.
Yeah.
Jumping off that, then we get the bridge shot.
Oh.
And Ronette looks like hell walking across that bridge, and that great old guy's got that line about what in the hell or whatever he says. It's just, to me, my only note, and you can go, is holy shit.
Yeah.
Another girl, period.
No, that's exactly it. I mean, and this was, primetime TV. Not that there's anything gratuitous about it, but it is arresting, this scene.
Oh, it's with very little, but it says so much, and it's so horrifying.
The ropes still tied around her wrist, restraints, but that were cut. There's a couple of sores on her chest, and she's just in a negligee, and
yeah, and it's ripped and dirty,
and she is just obviously like a zombie walking across those train tracks too. The setting, it is out of a nightmare. Yeah. It is just directly ripped out of your subconscious and put onto the screen perfectly. Yeah. Great. Nothing else to say about it. It's perfect.
And you have a scene like this, and you have not that long ago, you had a guy dancing in a hallway.
Yeah.
And they work together. It's these mixture of comedy, and David Lynch is very funny, and mixed in with this really dark visuals and dark energy.
Very funny in such a specific way that obviously David Lynch is not for everyone. This show was not for, even though it did really well, for at least for the pilot, did, and that it was in the culture to a large extent, but a very specific sense of humor. I think it talks about, you mentioned before about, he's generous to his characters, or none of them are kind of treated, they're all treated well. They all have a full life and a meaning behind them. So when they are funny, it just comes from a different place. It's not slapstick. It's not broad. It's weird.
Yeah, it's definitely weird in the best possible way, and strange. And because then we jump over to Big Ed's gas farm, off of this. Now we're going to Big Ed's gas farm. We get James arrives. We meet Big Ed and his wife Nadine, who you could have a whole podcast just on Nadine. James gives Ed a note for Donna, so already we're we're starting different storylines within this one episode. But what's your take on Big Ed, Hurley, and Nadine? Because what's there not to say? Stilgar in the original Dune as well.
Russell has called a big one. Again, it is the legend.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. This is another one of these, like, we find that James is Big Ed's nephew and that Nadine's Big Ed's wife and James is aunt, obviously, but nothing's explicit yet. So you're starting, again, putting pieces together that start getting filled in. So it is this almost, it's not the same as like hearing someone's name mentioned off screen before you see them, but it is like starting to lay these pieces together and connect the characters. But Nadine has an eye patch, and it's just one of these like iconic things that are like, why? Well, why not? But it's like, and she's like screaming about the curtains.
Everett McGill and Nadine Wendy, is her name Wendy something? I can't remember her name. I'm so sorry. Both in People Under the Stairs, which is a great movie. And I remember finding that movie and being like, oh my God, it's Big Ed and Nadine.
That's crazy.
Which was a year later, I think. I'm assuming that they were fans of the show. That's why they put them together. It's just a coincidence.
That's really funny.
One thing I want to point out for this, I don't have much to say on this scene other than it's great. James says she's the one about Laura, which is a thing that we're going to visit later about Laura. And that's just such a great.
That is great. Yeah.
Now the big moment comes.
Diane, 11:30 a.m., February 24th. Entering the town of Twin Peaks. It's 5 miles south of the Canadian border, 12 miles west of the state line. Never seen so many trees in my life.
36 minutes in.
Okay, pretty far into the thing. The character of Agent Cooper arrives at the town of Twin Peaks on February 24th at 11:30 a.m. Dan, what's your take on Coop?
Don't like him. Worst character of the show.
Yeah.
No, this is,
Definitely
this
kick
is
you off the show right now.
This is it. I mean, this is, the show has been building. We're setting the pieces in place, everything, we're seeing all the effects, but this is where it kind of, for me, kicks into gear. We get Cooper, who has the embodiment of all these different things in him. He's got all the different characteristics of, he's funny, he's quirky, he's serious, he's deadly smart, by the books, all of this, but we get it all within the first scene that we see him driving in the car, talking to a tape recorder, dictating, talking to Diane, giving her a play-by-play of all the minutia of everything. It is crazy that he is the first credited actor in the title sequence, and he's not here until 36 minutes into the show of a 90-minute pilot. Right. Is just, again, it takes its time, this show, to get to where it's going. But it's talking about the gas tank and his receipts, and talking about the lamplighter and the
lamplighter inn, and the cherry pie and coffee in Philadelphia, and the trees, and his joy of trees.
His joy of trees, man,
is amazing. We get Harry's full name. Harry S. Truman. It'd be easy. Yeah. So we've seen Harry, and now we're really going to remember him forever.
Because they have they have called him Harry. They have called him Sheriff Truman, but you've never put together Harry S. Truman. This is great. Really good.
We know he's going to the hospital to meet him.
Yep.
The idea of Diane and talking into the tape recorder is so cool.
So cool.
And I loved the tapes, the Diane tapes. So hopefully we can read them. I think they're on YouTube. So we're definitely gonna cover them. So I'll talk a little bit about those. But you get all of this stuff. So you get all of the stuff that he says in the show. Yep. You get a couple of details, I think, previous to this moment.
Okay.
So you can hear. I think there's like a thing with the lamplighter in, and then you get some of the stuff into season 2.
That's
so
awesome.
Cool.
That's
it's
really cool.
Really cool concept.
And we understand why Cooper is here. He's here because of Ronette.
Yeah, because she crossed the border from Canada to the U.S.
Yeah, but we've been following the story of Laura Palmer, and we just learned about Ronette, and now that's bringing in Cooper. So I obviously that makes sense, but like that is an interesting way to get into this. Like it is about this larger thing, and now Cooper is bringing the larger lens to the entire story than this one tragedy in the town.
Well, that concludes part 1 of our 2-part Twin Peaks pilot review. The second part should be streaming already, so you can find it wherever fine podcasts are given away for the cost of your soul. I don't know how the finances work on that. Thank you for listening to the Meanwhile podcast with Dan Johnson and Eric Grissom. If you would like to support the Meanwhile podcast, you can leave us a donation by visiting ericgrissom.com/meanwhile and clicking on the support link. If you like our show, please consider rating and reviewing the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're hearing this now. Meanwhile is produced by Eric Grissom and Where's My Robots? The Meanwhile theme song is written and performed by Paul Finn and Evening Pines. If you want to let us know what you thought of the show, you can reach Dan at danjnj.com, both on the web and on Blue Sky. Eric can be found on Blue Sky at ericgrissom.com, which is also his website. It's also me, right? That's weird. We'll see you again, and in the meantime, be good.
Listen to the sounds.
Meanwhile.
With my robots, you know?